we gradually release and remove all restricting tap lines that stem from agreement to ideas and attachments that are maintaining this engine of demise. For yes, it has been in place since human history began. For humans were created by the reptilians as a slave race, and have been programmed from the first day. Religions established as a control lockdown mechanism, then the gradual ramping up of the phenomena distracting world to maintain our attention and focus and offset the waking up of humanity. For this potentially is a time of great awakening, and the controllers realize this. The systems become ever more constricting and restricting, with far more means to captivate and garner agreement, created in response to the waking up process. There is no way to effectively fight this system if we are only aligned with our personal self. Then we stand in creation only, and it is an impossibility to not be in agreement with the ideas that are bringing forth our collective experience. For even those openly opposed to the systems of the world, unless a connection is made to their real awareness, they are locked in creation, and the personal self that is of creation, and programmed accordingly. The world we see is what we have all created. It can only manifest from agreement by the majority, and it is only through awareness, every individual becoming more aware and standing in the new nowness of the all is, that has an individual beyond creation. It is superseded. All agreement to the systems and ideas can be dissolved and discarded, and subconscious agreement bypassed. If the vast majority of individuals were aware and standing real, connected with the ears, then the demise of the planet could be offset. Nothing is irreversible. It is a holographic simulator after all, a reflective bubble for what we decide, and so the overall withdrawal from the agreement to demise through awareness will culminate in the grinding halt of the machine of destruction. We throw then an awareness spanner into the works, and potentially could put an end to this collective agreed upon experience that certainly did not need to be as harsh as this one. Is this a realistic possibility? That enough people will become aware that this becomes so? It is unlikely, as after millennia of being locked into creation, of being of the self-convinced personal self only for such a time, the majority will have rather the difficulty of letting their created rigid personal self go, and the comfy spots they always seek to secure in a rapidly deteriorating creation. although it will become increasingly harder to find a nice spot in the years to come, and perhaps this will afford the wake-up required for those still clinging to creation. But by then, with the robotization scenarios that are being marketed, and if agreed to becoming a reality, reaching for awareness will become a far harder undertaking. It's interesting how attitudes and created consciousness seems to be perpetuated. We know that if individuals are sent to the phantom zone due to their ill deeds and poor life choices that generally are causing mass restriction of others, even when starting over as simple organisms and working through all body types again, the moment they access free will, it seems they can continue on with this same abrasive attitudes and behaviour. Not all of them, I imagine, but apparently this process doesn't facilitate a reset in their created consciousness, as they can pretty much pick up from where they left off. I wonder if this holds true with creational resets. We go through epoch cycles due to cause and effect that stems from choices and decisions, ideas and focus. Again, it is the creational mechanism that affords experience, and if the experiences stem from the very limited and unaware ideas and agreement to them, then the creation reflection is one of a demise, and through the epochs we will go, from what we call a golden age, where everything in creation is at its best, to silver, bronze, then iron, and it is in the Iron Age we currently find ourselves. If things continue as they are, cause and effect will see the implosion of the creational matrix and all those that are still residing within it. The individuals then are removed to a temporary holding area as the creational matrix is reformulated, the holographic computer simulation reset and rebooted, if you will, and we have then effectively a new golden age, and the individuals are returned to it. Seems it is a constant that epochs go through these cycles, individuals unable to help themselves from gleaning control and garnering agreement for their position, then eliciting agreement for their ideas that further affect control and result in awareness restriction, demise, and a consequent transition through the epochs again. I wonder if whatever consciousness an individual had created for itself is maintained as it re-enters the golden epoch after creation had imploded. You would have surmised that as everything in creation is destroyed, including the 5 life levels and the 5 vehicles, and everything that is incorporated with them, that an individual would have a reset also, and begin to construct their personal created self once again. It isn't the same, as our phantom zone scenario. Individuals are sent there, while creation is still operating. So effectively, the phantom zone individuals would still have their 5 bodies in creation, their created consciousness and self still maintained and waiting to be re-established once a body type assumed is of a particular, that the attitudes can be realized and exercised again. If consciousness was maintained on re-entering a new formatted creational golden age, the attitudes and created consciousness that had gotten us into the previous mess and implosion would be there from the get-go, and we would expect things to deteriorate at a far faster pace than before, with the added consciousness distortion and psychological trauma that going through end-time disasters would naturally embed in the consciousness, much like those in the Fukushima disaster. The trauma of that was such that those killed in it are distorted psychologically for lifetimes. They can be seen on the astral, in their distorted confusion. If this then occurred, we could have a gradual speeding up of each epoch cycle, as every time there was a reset, the same patterns of cause and effect would take us through the cycles at a far swifter pace than the prior ones, if the consciousness was maintained and became ever more rigid and constricted each time around, then this would be reflected in the faster deteriorating epoch cycles. But I imagine that due to the destruction of creation, consciousness is reset also, for our created consciousness is due to all we have experienced, and this is stored in our causal vehicle. The habitual thoughts and mental considerations from the mental vehicle, the subconscious from the ethereal, and emotional additions to all we experience from the astral. With all these life levels gone, and the vehicles therefore too, everything is erased. All our agreements, attachments, all our causal body stored experiences, and the charged emotional ideas associated with them. And as all of this makes up our created consciousness, it stands to reason that, with creation, the 5 levels and the 5 vehicles gone, consciousness is no more. And so, when we are returned to the golden epoch, we are effectively reset, and we begin again to create our consciousness. We begin creating ideas, exacting cause and effect that provides experiences, and off we go again. I think the next time around, should people find themselves there, if they so much as sense the concept of a cell phone, they ought tape the mouth shut of the individual proposing such a notion, and never let them speak again.